Hi, everyone. Welcome to Open Source Friday. I'm Kedasha, and I'm super thrilled to be here with you today. I have Anand from Upptime, who's here to tell us all about his open source project. So welcome, and thanks for joining us. As usual, welcome to the stream. So one thing I wanted to make sure to highlight today was the GitHub Accelerator. So the GitHub Accelerator is a program for open source maintainers to get paid pretty much full-time to work on their projects for about 10 weeks. You get product support, you get mentorship, you get a weekly stipend, you get a community, and you get a whole lot more. So if you're in the audience and you're an open source maintainer, be sure to apply for the GitHub Accelerator because the application closes on the 5th. And I believe that's next Tuesday. Correct me. Yes, next Tuesday. So apply for the GitHub Accelerator and welcome to the stream. Drop a comment below. Let me know where you're entering from. And let's get into it. So like I said, we have Anand here, and he's going to be talking about his open source project Upptime, which is a monitoring tool, I believe, a monitoring tool and a status page, and it's built with GitHub Actions. I'm very curious to know how he built with that. So let's welcome Anand to the stream. Hi, Anand.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Of course. Thanks so much for joining. And one thing to mention is Anand is a GitHub star. So he is all about he's all about the GitHub love. But yeah, tell us about yourself, Anand. Who are you and how long have you been programming? Tell us about your open source journey.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm Anand. I am a tech entrepreneur. So background as a designer, engineer, founder. And I also do a lot of open source as a way to scratch my own itch. So, for like over 10 years, whenever I had an idea and I could not find a way to solve it, I would just use open source as a way to solve that problem. So over the years,
Nice.
I've built hundreds of projects, mostly like small services or products that solve a very specific problem that I was having. And that's also how Upptime came across. And professionally, I am a founder. So these days, I am the founder of First Quadrant, which is an AI sales company. We help businesses grow using LLMs. So, if you're GitHub, we can help you find relevant customers and then do outreach and nurture relationships, all using LLMs.
Wow.
So all the work that salespeople do, our AI does, basically.
Wow, that sounds pretty cool, pretty impressive. Is that project also open source?
It is not, no, because
it is not.
no.
Awesome. That's no problem. If it was open source, I was going to tell you to make sure you apply for the accelerator because this year we're focusing on AI products and such.
Absolutely.
But this is not about GitHub. This is about you. So tell us. I'm very curious, right? So okay. So firstly, tell us what is Upptime, and then I really want to know why you decided to build it with GitHub Actions. Like, how did that part come about? So, like, what is Upptime, and why did you decide to use Actions to build it?
Yeah, absolutely. So Upptime is an open source uptime monitor, as the name suggests, and a status page. So the story is that when I was running my previous company, Pabio, we were building a lot of backend API infrastructure, and things would break all the time. So I wanted a way to know if the website is down, or if a certain microservice is down, or just a way to monitor everything. And it would also be nice if we can have a public-facing status page where our customers and other people can see if something is not working, is that expected or not. So I looked at a lot of different uptime monitoring tools. And back then, a few years ago, I think that was around 4 years ago, there were not that many that were free. They were usually like the enterprise ones are like really expensive, hundreds or even thousands of dollars every month. And the free ones are like very limited. So they don't let you personalize it or do that much with it. So I thought, okay, as a way to scratch my own itch, let me build my own open source tool to solve the problem. And it turns out 4 or 5 years ago is also when GitHub Actions was becoming very popular. And GitHub has a very generous free plan where if you are an open source maintainer or if you have a public repo, you can use GitHub Actions unlimited for free. For example, as part of your CD pipeline or
Yes.
to build tools. So I thought, okay, GitHub Actions is used to deploy and build things. It's essentially just a computer that you can use for anything. So if you can run GitHub Actions and just run something like curl, which is a network library that can make requests for you, you can find out if a website is down or not. And GitHub Actions has a way to schedule cron jobs. So you can say run this every hour. So I just, as an MVP, I wrote a script that would run every hour. It would make a network request to my website, and it would just tell me if it's up or not. And I
Nice.
thought, okay, that works. So let's scale that up. And then I just did everything else on GitHub. So
Oh,
if your
wow.
website goes down, it automatically creates an issue in your GitHub repo. And then we use all of that data, all the issues and all the requests that we made before, using the GitHub API to create a nice website for you, where you can also see if everything is up right now, what were the maintenance, outages, and so on. So it uses GitHub Actions, GitHub Pages, and GitHub Issues. So you don't
Wow.
need any infrastructure, backend, programming. You really just need a GitHub account, and you can get your own uptime monitor and status page for all of your websites or services.
That's very impressive. It's really cool that you were able to leverage GitHub Actions, Pages, and Issues to get
Mhm.
this up and running to solve like a pretty common problem, but in a very unique way. You know what I mean? Like, who would think to be like, oh, let me just see if I could use GitHub Actions instead of like building something from scratch from the ground up. It's like, let me
Mhm.
leverage tools that people already know how to use to get this going. That's pretty
Absolutely.
cool.
And if it
Yeah.
can live in your repository, you also get all the benefits of having that in your repo. For example, if your website goes down or if your response time becomes really high, like if it takes a few seconds for your website to respond, we can track all of that as Git commits in your GitHub repo, meaning that you can just use Git, not even GitHub specifically, to see analytics of your response time, for example, using a
Yeah.
technique like Git scraping. So you get a lot of benefits, but I think the main one is that you don't need a server. So you don't need to pay for a VM or AWS or any other external tool to run all of this backend infrastructure. What was traditionally a backend now can just run on Actions.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. So like how long did it take you from like the first build to like, to like pushing like an MVP?
So I did build the first version in a day just to kind of play with it, and I think it was a few more days to build the rest of it, and then it really just took off. So people started just using it. It was on the front page of Hacker News.
Nice.
CSS Strips wrote about it, and then it just now thousands of people and companies are just using it for free.
Nice. 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 Well, we'd love to see it. I'd love to see a demo if you have one on how we
Yeah,
can
let's do it.
implement it. Yeah.
All right. So I have github.com/uptime/uptime, the uptime repo. This is a template repository. So all you have to do to get started, this is just general documentation on how it works. And all you have to do to get started is press on use this template on the top right. So I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to create a new repo for myself. I'm going to call it open source Friday, and I'm going to create it. And what is happening now is that because it was a template repo, if you also create your own repo, you can mark it as a template, and then GitHub would make it very easy for other people to make a copy of your repo. And this way, they don't have to, for example, fork it, or they don't
Right.
have to download your code and upload it again.
Right.
Alrighty, this takes a few seconds, and now we have my repo ready. I'm going to open now the Uptime website. We have a little documentation here. I'm happy to talk through the concepts in a second, but to get started, we will create the repo from the template, and then I'm going to add a required secret.
Okay.
So I'm going to go to my settings, and I'm going to generate a personal access token so that Uptime can make requests on my behalf using the GitHub API. I'm gonna expire it in 7 days. Don't worry, I'm gonna remove it right after this. I'm gonna give it permission to look at my open source Friday repo. I'm gonna let it do all the things that it needs, which is actions, admin, contents to be able to write to the repo, issues to be able to read and write from issues, and workflows. And I'm going to create a token. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to go back to the repo we just created together. Let's go back here and settings. And I'm going to add this as an environment variable. So as an environment secret under repo secrets. All right. And I'm going to call it GHPAT, that's GitHub Personal Access Token.
Right.
Now my GitHub Actions will have permission to use my account. So to set up Uptime, we have a YAML file, uptimerc.yaml, and I'm going to edit it now. So first, I'm going to change the owner of the repo. That is
Can you zoom
me.
in a little bit?
For sure.
Thank you.
I'm going to change the owner, which is me. I'm going to put the name of the repo, open source Friday. And now I can just put here in plain text, what do I want to track is open or not. So you can use IPv6, IP addresses, websites. For now, let's see if GitHub is up. GitHub is up.
Fingers crossed.
And maybe open source Friday.
Okay.
OpenSourceFriday.com. Yeah. All right, let's put that as well. 2 sites here. And let's get rid of the boilerplate. Add my website's URL. Open source Friday. And I'm going to write hello on Friday. And I'm going to commit this. And websites. So what's going to happen now is, as soon as you make this commit, we have a GitHub Actions workflow here, which is going to listen to that commit. So we're going to run setup, which looks at if the Uptime YAML file has changed, and then it's going to run a bunch of code, which will now set up the whole repo. So we can go here to Actions and actually see what's going on here. So we are, oh, it's almost done. So we first check if there is a new version of Uptime available and update it. Then we start making these requests. So you can actually see from the logs, it's really interesting. We go to github.com, we see that it loads in 0.14 seconds, and we say GitHub is up. And we make a GitHub Git commit for that. And we do the same for the next website. And we then generate a summary, we add graphs, and now we are generating the actual website.
Wow.
Let's go back to the repo and see what our README looks like now. So you can see
it goes on the README. Okay.
Yeah, it all goes also on the README. So you can see live, everything is up, GitHub is up, and Open Source Friday is up. This site is slightly slower than GitHub. And if you use this for a few days, you're going to see, because we have the schedule, this action is going to keep running. So it runs every 5 minutes, every 10 minutes, something like that. And it's going to keep tracking the response time and uptime. So you can see the response time of the last few days, years even, and same with the uptime. And we even generate these little graphs. So let's look at the website now. Let's see if it's done. Pages is being deployed, takes a few more seconds, and then you're going to get a website. That's how it works. I'm going to show you the site as well.
It literally does everything for you.
So your website is up. It says hello on Friday, and you can see GitHub and Open Source Friday are up, and everything is up right now. So you can customize everything. You can theme it, design it, do whatever you want. I can show you a few examples that I like. So I have a topic on GitHub, Uptime, where people who want, they can choose to tag that so that they can see we can find them. you can see there are like over 3,000 public repos and who knows how many private repos using Uptime. And let's open a few of these. So let's see. Um, Chatwood, for example, is a really great company. Chatwood is an open source chatting tool that you can put in your website, also funded by YC. Great people, and they have their backend and front end tracked here. And you can go to their website status.chatwood.com, and you can see their little logo, their Discord, and that everything is up right now, which is great.
Wow.
And you can also see something must have happened around 20 days ago that their website was a bit slow. And
Mm.
they're really using Uptime, really well because they've set up like maintenance events, and you can see past incidents and any time in the history where it was down. And you can see in the repo, all of this information is in issues. So you can see there was an issue created by Uptime that it was degrading performance. And then when it came back up, it would say up and it's going to close the issue. And
Oh,
if you want
amazing.
to share any information, then you can just use issue comments as a way to share information that, hey, we're investigating this issue. It's going to be up soon. And as soon as the issue is closed, that tells Uptime that it's back up. And
Yeah.
similarly, Forward Email is a free email forwarding service. And look at them. They have like so many different
So many.
email
Yeah.
backends, and they're all tracked for free
With
on GitHub.
Uptime.
So that is how it works.
That is so seamless though. Like that is I love the way that you built this tool because it's not like you have to like download something and install it and integrate it into your like all the repositories. It's just like it works on GitHub, and as long as you have this
Everything
repo,
works
like
on
you
GitHub,
can, yeah, you
and
can just add as many
you can
sites
do
as
as
you
much as
want.
you want. If you want to
Yeah.
really go deep, you can configure, you can translate it, you can use different
Wow.
HTTP verbs. There's just so much you can do. And what's really interesting is you can also set up notifications. So when it goes
Wow.
down, we will create a GitHub issue, but you can
Hmm.
also choose to be notified in Slack or get an email or
Hmm.
an SMS text or in Teams.
Wow.
And all of this will happen on GitHub. So you don't have to think about managing a backend or deal with API keys. Everything is taken care of for you.
Yeah, that's amazing. So like how many features are there? You were just like
Ooh.
scrolling through like
Yeah,
how
you can
many
do a lot
things
of
can you
different
do with Uptime?
configuration. You can set up a bunch of different things. You can also set up a lot of different types of notifications, like Slack and Telegram and all of that stuff. I don't think I can tell you the number of features, but let's just say I've had my fun setting this up.
That's awesome. So this is a pretty like well documented, well used project by like even bigger companies. Do you have a lot of sponsors on GitHub to support the maintenance of this project? Like how are you keeping up with Uptime?
I've been very fortunate that my full time job at my company is able to also support me for my open source work, which I
Okay,
mostly
good.
do evenings and weekends. But so I don't personally use GitHub sponsors, although I think it is fantastic, and I urge everyone who is building open source to or wants to support open source can. So I don't have a sponsors profile, but I like to sponsor people. So that's fun
Yeah.
because a lot of these incredible people are doing such a good job. Let me give you a quick example. So one of my friends, Daniel, is the maintainer of Curl, which is probably the world's most popular open source project, right?
Yeah, of course.
And Daniel is a genius, of course. Like he's been doing this before I was born, and he still maintains it.
Wow.
And Daniel is a GitHub star, so please support Curl if you do. But why I'm telling you this is because Curl is in every single device, right? Like a billions of
Mhm.
devices are using it to make requests, and Uptime uses libcurl, which is curl as a SDK. So if curl didn't exist, Uptime wouldn't exist. So the
Right.
point I'm making is that all of these incredible open source maintainers are giving away all of their hard work for free so that we
Yes.
can stand on the shoulders of giants and build our own stuff.
Yes.
So yeah, so it's been really incredible to like just meet these amazing people, and then my tiny impact on top of their decades of work enables people, for example, to set up their own uptime repos.
Yeah, I think that's why I asked the question because I'm like, this is a pretty, it seems like a pretty important open source project that's used by, I mean, it has, I'm looking here, 14,000.6 stars.
It does
And
not.
it's been forked 809 times. I don't even know how many times the create new repository button has been used, but it's being used by so many companies, right? And I'm just like, wow, it would really bite if this project was not supported. So I'm happy that your company is able to support your open source endeavors because this project is amazing. I saw a question that said, "Is the process documented on how to use Uptime?" And yeah, I saw like there's pretty detailed documentation on the website, right?
Yeah. You can go to our website, uptime.js.org, or you can just search for Uptime. And we have a lot of docs, which are also open source. So if you don't find something, please feel free to create an issue or make a PR, and I'll be happy to help you.
Yeah, and are you looking for any maintainers or anything? Not maintainers, but contributors to the project or anything? Are there any like open issues that you need help with and such?
Yeah, that would be fantastic. Absolutely. I would love that. So we have set this up as an open source project where anyone can contribute. Uptime was also one of the first projects to do the GitHub externship, where we had a lot
Ooh,
of really great people who worked with us for 3 months on making the code base better. But of course, that's an ongoing process. So we
yeah.
have a ton of issues, and there are some which are actually good first issues as well. So anyone who wants to contribute is welcome. Absolutely.
Nice. So in addition to using GitHub Actions, issues, and you said one more, GitHub Pages, and in addition to using the curl SDK, what other technologies did you use to build Uptime?
So Uptime is full stack TypeScript because that's my preferred language. So the Uptime repo, Uptime/Uptime is just the template repo with all the GitHub actions configured for you. The
Okay.
actual code base of the action itself lives
Mm-hmm.
here in Uptime Monitor. That is CLI and GitHub action that is published on the marketplace, written in TypeScript. The status page itself is a separate repo written in Svelte. And whenever I have like a big idea that might be a big change, I like to publish that as an RFC so that the community can also comment on it and figure out if it's a good idea. So we use mostly TypeScript, JavaScript, Markdown, and Svelte. But if you're not comfortable with any of those languages and you have a good idea, I'm sure there's something we can work out together.
Yeah. Cool. I'm so happy that you built this. I see somebody says that they'll fork it and seem like people are really interested in this project. If you have questions, be sure to drop it in the comments. Otherwise, I'll ask another question. So, what do you think, like, what's been the most difficult part, or what was the most difficult part of building Uptime? Like, was it like, oh, I wish it had this, and then you built it? Or did you have like a slate of features that you wanted it to have initially? Like, how did you go about doing all that stuff and dealing with that difficulties?
Yeah, it's a great question. To be honest, I didn't really think that much about it. I think that's why I'm a bit, you're lucky if you're silly, right? So because I built it for me, I just built all the features that I wanted, which is I want to be notified on Slack if my website is down. I want to not have to leave GitHub, so I should be able to do everything within issues and so on. So I just built the features that I wanted, basically, and it seemed to work for me. But then, as the community came together, we also have a bunch of other great contributors who built other notifications because somebody said they wanted Discord and somebody wanted Telegram, and they wanted to use a like a custom actions runner image because they are enterprise that cannot use GitHub Actions. They use some special Azure or self-hosted runner, and they wanted Uptime to work with that. So as all of these, people are using it, they come up with their own ideas, and the ones that I can work on, I work on. Otherwise, people make PRs, and the community adds those features. So I feel like it's always a working document. It's never finished. So for me, I didn't set up like milestone or a list of features I wanted to build. I just built what I needed for me, and then everything else after that, I just built what was needed for everyone else.
Nice, nice. And is there like a contributing guide or anything? How can people contribute to the project?
Absolutely. Let me see what we have in here in our docs. I think we have some information. So we have a little contribution page here where we have a code of conduct, we have contributing guidelines, um, and we have a little bit more information in here. But I think the easiest way would probably be just to engage with the community on discussions. We have,
Yeah,
many different ideas. For example, this one is from a few years ago now, and they suggest to add grouping. And I think it's a good idea, but I haven't had a chance to work on it yet. So if that's something
yeah,
you pick up, you can do that. A great way is to, for example, sort in ideas by the top of all time, and then you'll see what are the things that people really want. And if you're interested in picking any of those up, please feel free to.
nice. This is so cool. How do you manage everything? So like you're an entrepreneur, you have a full-time job as well. You have open source projects, multiple open source projects, and you also do, I think you do content creation sometimes. And I'm pretty sure, you have a life as well. Like how do you manage all these floating things?
Who says I'm able to manage them?
Right.
You're absolutely right. To be honest, most of my time is spent at my day job. As the founder of an early stage startup, you don't get days off. Um, so that's mostly what I've been working on. And then I do open source stuff, non-profit stuff, angel investments, other stuff in that space. All of the other stuff together, I probably do a couple hours every week. Um, so I think the good thing is when I created Uptime, I did it as a work project because I needed it for my company.
Yeah.
And now maintaining it, I'm able to do just like I maintain the other projects. Um, yeah, I think, and that's also why there's like a issue from 2020 that I haven't had a chance to pick up yet. So all the
Yeah.
support I can get, I would love to get that. But apart from that, I feel like I have a system that works for me. I'm able to time box. I use a bunch of different tools to help me set up my schedule, like Notion Calendar and Linear, and I'm able to uh, do as good a job as I can with open source. I think,
Yeah.
to be totally honest, that's also a reason I don't have sponsors enabled for Uptime or for any of my other projects, because I feel like if I am taking sponsorship, then I don't want to do a disservice and not get to do everything that would be beneficial to the community. So I feel like the current arrangement works really well, where I'm self-funding it, and then I also get to say that, hey, I don't think I have the bandwidth to do this right now. I would love to
Exactly.
accept a PR, but otherwise, as soon as I have time, I can pick it up.
Cool. I think that's fair. I think that's a really good way to do it because life gets busy and things happen and you can't really, always be on uptime because you're on your enterprise, not enterprise, but like entrepreneurship bandwidth. But this was a really good chat. Thank you so much for sharing uptime. I'm not seeing any more questions in the audience, so I'm gonna go ahead and end this stream. Thank you, Anand, for being here with us today. It's been a pleasure. Be sure to check out Uptime at github.com. Is it backslash or forward slash
Oh,
up,
mhm.
uptime/uptime? And become a contributor and start using Uptime if you're not already. It's a really, really seamless way to check the status of your applications or your websites. Even if you don't have like an enterprise grade or like a product grade app, you can learn how to use it by adding it to your already previously deployed applications. I'm Kadesha. This is Anand, and
Thank
it
you so
has
much.
been a pleasure to be here with you. Bye.